Now it's playing, and then you plug it in.
Hey,
Look at that. So we're going right now. We're
we're
live.
on.
Yeah.
Hello everybody, Heath here from Raw Kitchen, and today we have Justin, Yin Yoga expert, and we're just going to ask a few more questions about Yin and how it can really get us deeper into that beautiful space where our awareness of everything and our potential comes alive. And from a lot of things I've done, I've found the Yin Yoga to be the best. So we'll ask Justin now, why Yin?
Well, Yin is great, as you were getting into it. We have the universal duality of the yin and the yang that exists within every human being and everything in the universe. And in today's society, we see this tendency toward the action, toward the yang, toward the restlessness, which is not a bad thing. Yang is essential, the putting that energy toward action. But if we ignore the yin, if we ignore the peaceful state of gathering that energy, then of course a lot of energy is wasted, a lot of energy is impure, is toxic. So what the yin allows us to do is be present with the life energy, the chi, so to speak, that runs through everything and all of our actions in our everyday lives. So the yin allows us to become present with that energy and, of course, clear any toxins or any impurities or any blockages of that energy that we experience, allowing us to maximize our potential.
Right. So if health is balance, as it is on any sort of homeostatic thing, and if you look at our culture at the moment, we're totally yang, aren't we? We're action, 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 and no sitting and things like that. Yeah. And then too much tension is blocking, isn't it? It blocks. And as you were saying before, like everything that is animating us, which we can't name, we can't even really identify, it's a knowing that we have some animating essence that runs through us. Energy, as you call it. And when that gets blocked, we've got problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting you say sitting. It's interesting how there's a lot of action of the mind. Yet sometimes we're sitting in poor posture, or we're like tensing our muscles, but we're not actually using them. So it's the art of yin is beautiful because it allows us to become aware of the energy we're using, that raw source of energy, that prana, that chi, that unspeakable, unnameable force that guides our existence. Becoming in touch with that is really beautiful because then it allows proper usage of that energy, mindful, purposeful usage of that energy, becoming mindful in every motion of every muscle in your entire body in every moment of every day, and that just becomes pure bliss. And then what becomes clear is what action to use and what purpose to maximize my desires, my purpose, and clearing that space to obtain that ultimate truth that guides us all.
Yeah, because you might be able to help me understand this a little bit more, but when this sort of pure energy, for lack of a better word, when it runs through different etheric organs in the body, or it animates a different characteristic. Chinese medicine has known this forever, and they diagnose, and what I find interesting as a caveat here about Chinese medicine, they don't have any psychology, no psychiatry, anything. There's just blockages in the etheric organs. So stagnation in the liver creates frustration, like stagnation or low chi flow running through the earth organs of the stomach, spleen, and groundingness gives you an attention deficit type thing, things like this. But what I'm most interested in is how do we get more of this chi circulating up via the psyche and your cognitive senses, so you can just get that quintessence awareness of the now.
Exactly. That's beautiful. You just laid it out perfectly. So our body functions in a very natural way. The mind and the body are connected. The body is an extension of the mind. So what happens is we have these energy flows through our body, these chi flows, these meridians, right, that extend through our body, through our essential organs. And what can happen is stress that accumulates in a day, or traumatic events that occur over years subtly, and it's tied into the psychology, end up getting stored in certain parts of the body. Typically when we experience stress, we hold our breath, or we feel a tenseness or a pain in our stomach, or we hold it in our hips over time or in our backs, and we end up not actually sitting properly, not actually being present in our bodies to avoid feeling that pain. So if we avoid feeling that pain, we end up storing that energy in our body, and ends up blocking that chi, blocking that flow. So the beauty of Yin is that it allows us to become present with those blockages and also clear those blockages. And what ends up happening is a beautiful opening of the mind, because the reason those blockages are there is because the mind stored them there. So it's this beautiful mind-body connection, and as you were getting at, it is essential for proper maximization of health.
Yeah, because it's kind of hard for a lot of us in the West to understand, that, especially how you put it there. The body is an extension of the mind, whereas we think it's the other way around. The mind is a chemical product of the body.
Yeah.
So it's a really sort of we have to really reorientate ourselves this way, and so forth. So what I found in yoga, especially with Yin Yoga, if you can relax and stay conscious, it's pivotal, really key, especially in Yin, for the breath to sort of hold you in that place, and then just examine the resistance.
Absolutely, the breath is the key to everything. The breath is the constant life giver. The breath and the heart working together to bring oxygen to the muscles and the ligaments and the organs of the body. And I think it's interesting how, if you pay attention to the breath, it's usually erratic, or people hold their breaths. I notice sometimes when I'm in a nervous situation, I'll hold my breath, and then all of a sudden I'll start breathing and paying attention to my breath, and I notice how everything just sort of really just eases itself in becoming connected to that. So in becoming present with the body through the breath and embracing the sensations and mindfully letting go of the muscles, then what ends up happening is this is almost like this universal truth ends up coming in, this knowing that you talk about. It's not measurement in terms of scientific measurement, it's this deep instinctive knowing of communication of the body and the universe telling us about this energy, telling us about our bodies, where are their blockages, where, oh, I have something in my hip, so this is something that I should be mindful of and constantly maybe let go of. And then what ends up happening is it's just freedom and bliss that ends up happening. And I've experienced nothing like it.
Yeah. And I should imagine you've done your fair share of measurement, being an astrophysicist study, which I find fascinating. But if we can bring it back to the blockages, because really at the end of the day, that's where practically we're working with. Step number one is identify the blockages, or even know there's stress and tension in the body, which I find fascinating. Because when you do sit, you become very aware that you have these blockages. And so is it that simple? Is it we just breathe them out?
Well, it is. I mean, you breathe them out with certain postures. I mean, because you can sit in a not ineffective posture, and it won't actually clear the toxins. And it also, this is where we can tie it into what the Raw Kitchen does, which is a full nourishment of the body. Because if you're continually putting toxins into the body, it doesn't matter if you clear them. So there's being aware of the food you put in your body, the environmental toxins, the mental toxins, the energetic toxins that can exacerbate the clutter. And then of course breathing into stillness in certain postures of the body that are stimulating certain organs, certain joints, certain tendons, certain muscles. That's where the Art of Yin comes in, where breathing into those sensations actually softly massages that chi, softly massages those parts of the body, which then it's actually beautiful, because coming out of the pose you almost feel like there's this gigantic release of energy, and then it ends up being a warming sensation in that in that part of the body, and then just a beautiful opening that results.
Well, okay, that's great. And also what you're saying before about the whole yin and yang, and you're saying yin yoga is very detoxifying, very cleansing, and hence why we're even talking about how to unblock these meridians and things like that. And that's because yin by its nature is cleansing, yang is what, building, I guess you'd say, or action or something like that.
Strengthening, I would say, absolutely.
Strengthening, and then and also the correlation with raw fooding. Raw food is very cleansing, it's very cooling, and so forth, things like that. What I do know with, I believe that potentially with raw food, when we're looking at always at balance, if we do too much raw, We can do maybe too much cleansing.
Absolutely.
We can get too cold
Absolutely.
and things like that. But tell me this, can you do too much yin yoga?
Yes, you can. Well, if you only do yin yoga, once again, you can be misbalanced. So just like you were saying, you can be too yin. I mean, in the end, we want a balance of yin and yang. I've seen, and I think it's obvious that our society, a lot of people today are too yang. So pushing toward the yin is essential. But if you only ate alkaline food, raw food, and just only did yin yoga, you might start to feel not as good also. That can cause its own set of symptoms. You know, I've read things about, you know, people having just too much of a yin lifestyle, and they feel drained. They feel like they don't have strength. They feel like they don't have that energy, because without the yang, without actually putting that energy into action, without that creation, without activating that energy, if you just build it and you just clear those spaces, it doesn't actually, you know, it's just one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, which is why the yin and yang symbol has the yang and the yin and the yin and the yang, isn't it?
Exactly.
And I mean, I think it's fair to say that, like, if we run on the 80-20 rules, it is pretty much we require 80% yin in this lifestyle, isn't it? It might change later.
Absolutely.
But at the moment, generalizing, I think we could say an 80-20 seems to work with a lot of things that I've experienced, for me personally anyway. So with raw fooding and things like that, it's great. And like you were saying, with the alkalizing, you know, the raw food diet, very alkaline. Yes. But I have seen people that are over alkaline, and they do get a heaviness, they get a listlessness, and they get a lack of acidic yang fire. And so that's what we're talking about, isn't it? Yeah. But today's world is undeniably yang, it's contracted, and we have to work with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just becomes being mindful, and that's the beauty of the yin practice. And in yoga in general, yin is not exclusive to the art of mindfulness and breathing. All of yoga is. And it ends up being an art of listening and mindful action-reaction.
I had a very profound experience the other day in yoga. It was a hip opening. I don't know, right time, right place. It just seemed to happen. But I went deeper than normal and experienced a somewhat psychedelic experience. It was bizarre. I was laughing. I was in a state of bliss, but also pain, which is kind of weird. Yeah. But what's going on there? Because I hear this. I hear it a lot in yoga. Are we accessing old trauma? I don't know. Is it that simple? It seems, I don't know.
It is. Actually, it is that simple. That's exactly what's happening. You're accessing old trauma. I mean, who knows what it is? It could be some distorted trauma you had from years ago. It could be something that's been building over the last couple of weeks. It almost doesn't matter. The point is that there was something stored there. And I love how you said you were feeling the pain, but you were laughing. You were laughing because you were releasing the pain. I feel like when a lot of people have their hearts broken, or when they experience some sort of disappointment or letdown, they end up avoiding the pain, you know, aversion from the pain. They end up thinking about plans in the future and the past and the future to soothe themselves, but instead of feeling and embracing that pain, that's where true bliss comes from, and then you can let it go.
Yeah, and hence the practice, and why I'm a firm believer that yin should definitely be related with your other forms of yoga as well. I find it helps you everywhere else. Yeah. And so in closing, Justin, what's the thought for the day, bro?
Stay present, stay focused, stay happy, and everything is beautiful.
Yeehaw! All right, Raw Kitchen signing off with number one Yin Man, Justin.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Heath.